Snopes fact-checked something 7 years too late. Prosecutors recommend criminally charging Boeing. And the first presidential debate on CNN, where Trump was thrown to the Wolf Blitzer. And more on this week's America Uncovered headlines. Welcome to America Uncovered, I'm Chris Chappell. A recent study published in the Annals of Neurology journal has found that stressful life events can make you more susceptible to developing Alzheimer's later on. Wait, I cover the news. That's nothing but stressful life events. Thank goodness it just affects your memory later on, as my memory is still as sharp as whatever you call those. Speaking of things you may have forgotten, remember when then-President Donald Trump responded to the Charlottesville Unite the Right rally in August of 2017 by saying,
"Very fine people on both sides."
At least according to left-leaning media. Article after article came out claiming that Trump was defending white nationalists, and Slate even went so far as to suggest he's a Nazi sympathizer. Which is crazy. I mean, who ever heard of someone on the left calling someone they don't agree with a Nazi? That's never happened before. You may also remember there was just one teeny, tiny, little, minuscule subatomic problem. Trump actually explicitly denounced neo-Nazis and white nationalists in the very same speech, less than 50 seconds after he said very fine people.
You're changing history, you're changing culture, and you had people, and I'm not talking about the neo-Nazis and the white nationalists, because they should be condemned totally. But you had many people in that group other than neo-Nazis and white nationalists. They were people protesting very quietly the taking down of the statue of Robert E. Lee. I'm sure in that group there were some bad ones. The following day it looked like they had some rough, bad people, neo-Nazis, white nationalists, whatever you want to call them.
I know, how could the media expect the American public to sit through 35 seconds of footage to give them context in the whole story? Remember, this was 2017. Vine had just died after whittling the U.S.'s attention span down to 6 seconds. That's probably why the media couldn't even play the 8-second clip where Trump refers to the neo-Nazis and white nationalists as very bad people in the same sentence, where he says they were very fine people on both sides.
You had some very bad people in that group, but you also had people that were very fine people on both sides.
Oh, sorry, I fell asleep halfway through that clip. I'm glad the media chopped it in half. Who has an extra 4 seconds to spare? Well, luckily, some in the media believe in accuracy, like Snopes, which calls itself the definitive fact-checking site. And they put out an article clarifying that no, Trump did not call neo-Nazis and white supremacists very fine people, and they put this article out last week? What was the holdup? Were they too busy debunking the idea that the original Avril Lavigne died and the current one is a clone? Yes, this is a real conspiracy theory. Clearly this takes precedence over letting people know their leader isn't an active Nazi sympathizer. So I guess sometimes it just takes Snopes 7 years to debunk false narratives. I can't wait for them to admit to other narratives people got wrong 7 years ago, like The Last Jedi was great and anyone who disagrees is a sexist monster. Oh wait. That's the line people are still taking with Star Wars now. Well, here's to hoping that Snopes can at least admit the Acolyte is mid in 2031. Speaking of Disney properties, 20th Century Television Senior Vice President Michael Giordano was caught on tape saying that Disney has discriminatory hiring practices against white men.
Certainly, there have been times where, there's no way we're hiring a white male person.
Just kind of unspoken.
There are times when it's spoken, but
how would they say it?
There's no way we're hiring a white male person.
However, it's worth noting the circumstances of this confession. Giordano was on what he thought was a date, but the person he was with was an undercover journalist secretly recording him, which is against California law. Of course, with this being California, the main punishment for breaking the laws there is a stern finger wagging, accompanied by an apology for being so stern with the finger wagging. This was set up by James O'Keefe, the founder of Project Veritas. He has a history of trying to catch people in sting operations and using deceptive editing when releasing videos. Project Veritas has been described by some as a coordinated disinformation campaign, as opposed to the mainstream media, which is more of an uncoordinated disinformation campaign. So is Disney racist against white men? Maybe it's hard to say because the source we're getting this information from is clearly biased against the House of Mouse. But if they are discriminating against white men, that's a major problem. Mainly because it means I can't fulfill my dream of one day playing Pocahontas in the live-action remake. They won't cast me as a Native American woman just because I'm a white man? That's racist. This role will probably just go to a leftist person of color, like Justin Trudeau. And after the break, the Supreme Court will take up state bans on gender-affirming care for minors. Welcome back. The Supreme Court agreed to hear an appeal from the Biden administration seeking to block state bans on gender-affirming care for minors. Many assume the mostly conservative court will rule against the Biden administration because, they're conservative. But the Supreme Court just ruled in favor of the Biden administration and will allow the White House to press social media companies to remove what they deem as disinformation. Not because the First Amendment wasn't violated, but because they argued the plaintiffs didn't have standing to sue. Say what you want about the Supreme Court, but they keep us on our toes. Given how unpredictable they can sometimes be, other than every decision being 6-3, I feel like they're less conservative and more chaotic lawful. Arguments over gender-affirming care for minors will take place in the fall, in the Supreme Court, I mean. Arguments on this topic everywhere else will continue uninterrupted, especially with even nurses whistleblowing, claiming that hospitals are manipulating parents into giving kids life-changing treatment. And I'm sure no matter what the decision is, arguments over gender-affirming care for minors will continue long after this case, and even beyond the heat death of the universe, which, if you think about it, is the ultimate transition. Speaking of things that kill people, Boeing. U.S. prosecutors recommend that the Justice Department criminally charge Boeing over violating a settlement that protected the company from prosecution for 2 crashes of Boeing 737 MAX jets in 2018 and 2019. Which resulted in over 300 deaths. The settlement required Boeing to overhaul its compliance practices and submit regular reports. Oh, and pay $2.5 billion. But now the DOJ says the company has violated this agreement. So does this mean that there will finally be consequences for Boeing, which multiple whistleblowers have spoken out against for questionable safety standards, among other things? I hope so. But remember, this is America. When it comes to corporations being held accountable in the U.S., I wouldn't hold my breath, especially if I'm in a Boeing plane because oxygen levels might suddenly become depleted. Speaking of things that didn't kill themselves, Jeffrey Epstein. A former girlfriend of Epstein suing his estate claimed in the lawsuit that he boasted about being an agent of Mossad, Israel's national intelligence agency. Wow. If true, this would make Israel look really bad. Is what I would say if Israel hadn't already had major protests against it raging for months now. Things are rough when allegedly associating with Jeffrey Epstein isn't even in the top 10 worst PR you got this month. President Biden pardoned upwards of 2,000 veterans convicted of having gay sex under an old military law that banned such acts from 1951 until it was repealed in 2013. This is a move that both Democrats and Republicans can get behind. I could have phrased that better. But these pardoned veterans served their country and can now receive benefits they were denied for violating a law that hasn't been in effect for over a decade. It's a different age. People are allowed to love who they want to love and hawk-twa who they want to hawk-twa. Like I said, it's a different age. Prosecutors in Trump's classified documents case pushed the judge to issue a gag order, saying Trump's rhetoric put agents at risk of physical violence. Judge Eileen Cannon didn't issue a ruling, but seemed skeptical over this request. She also told the prosecutor she didn't appreciate his tone while asking for this. Way to tone police, Judge, come on! The prosecutors are just emotional because this gag order is the only thing that can stop Trump from speaking out. Just look at how well the gag order in his so-called hush money case worked out. He didn't violate it once, which is technically true. He violated it 10 times. Which is surprising. When has Trump ever said anything that got him in trouble, even when he wasn't trying to be inflammatory?
Very fine people on both sides.
Oh yeah. Speaking of Trump, last weekend Trump said he had picked who his running mate will be. They would be at Thursday's debate, and at the time, no one knew who it was, even the candidate themselves. He chose a running mate who would be at the debate and was so out of the loop. They had no idea what was going on around them. I didn't see any other guy on stage at Thursday night's debate except Joe Biden, which means Trump chose Joe Biden as his running mate, the ultimate unity ticket. And speaking of Thursday's debate, Wow. Just wow. There's so much to say that I can't even get it into today's video. From outrageous statements from both candidates to Biden performing so badly that Democrats are now seriously thinking they might have to replace him before the election. Let me know in the comments below if you'd like to see an episode on that. Of course, my biggest gripe with it is these two were presented as America's only options, and they didn't let an important independent candidate debate. And no, I'm not talking about RFK Jr. I'm talking about America Uncovered's officially endorsed presidential candidate, Chris Christie. Some will say he didn't qualify for the debate because he suspended his campaign months ago. But hopefully that's another lie that Snopes will myth bust 7 years from now. Our leaders may not always have our best interests in mind, but YouTube doesn't like it when I talk about that sort of thing. So I decided to hide it in discussion about the new Elden Ring DLC. Check it out on our other channel, Gamers Unbeaten. And America Uncovered wouldn't exist without your support. Click that orange button to support us on Patreon. All it takes is $1 an episode, and you can set a monthly limit. Once again, I'm Chris Chappell. See you next time.